Hello students, this is Mr. Hart, and in this video we're going to finally start diving into Scratch and building our own animations and our own games. Just a reminder before this that you should already have a Scratch account that you've made, and you should verify the email that they send to you. That's the only way you can ever share anything in Scratch. Okay. So to get started, once you've made your account, there's just two main things you really need to know after you've explored and looked at different ideas. The first is to create a new Scratch or a new program. You just click on this create button, and to see the things you've already made, you click on this folder for my stuff. So you may have not made anything yet, so let's go ahead and create our first thing in Scratch. Okay. Now when you click create, it's going to open up a menu that kind of looks like this, a screen that looks like this. I'm going to go ahead and get out of the picture for a bit so that you can see what's going on clearly. Okay. And so there's multiple parts to this interface. Okay. On the left, you'll see all the code that you can pull into your program. We'll get to that later, but all the code and stuff you can do is on the left. Your current program is in the middle, the stuff you actually write, and your program, how it looks like on the screen, is shown here on the right. Okay, so for right now we just have this little cat guy. Okay, and we can move him around and do other things with them, but what our program actually looks like is right here on the right. The actual code that we make is in the middle, and the code we grab is on the left. So for example, if we put our code here in the middle, okay, it will stay there, and we can run this code. If I click on it, you'll notice that the cat jumps to a random position because this says to go to a random position. Okay, and I can just click on it to run that code. Okay, obviously we'll get through all the details, but just remember what you can do is on the left, what you've programmed to do is in the middle, and what you are going to see is on the right. Okay, so before we get into very complex programs, let's just focus more on animation. How does animation actually work? Okay, well, if you look at this cat and you go to the costumes tab up here, okay, this cat actually has two costumes, what they call costumes. One of him with his legs like that, and one with his legs like that. Okay, so if you go back and forth between those costumes, okay, then it looks like the cat is kind of hopping or skipping, if you will. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Excuse me. By going to our looks tab over here and bringing in the code next costume. Okay, so if I just continually click on this piece of code, it looks like the cat is skipping or jumping or whatever it may be, right? So our goal in writing our programs for animation is to make it so that excuse me, to make it so that the cat is moving across the screen and he's changing costumes or whatever it may be, right? We want to design our code to do that for us automatically. Okay, let's bring in another character to compare with. Okay, let's bring in this bear. Okay, this is a good bear. So we got our cat, we got our bear. Okay, for right now we're just going to focus on the bear. Okay, so if you want to design the code for the cat, you'll click on the cat down here. If you want to design the code for the bear, you'll click on the bear. Okay, so this little box down here determines which object or character you're working on. Okay, and again, if we go to costumes, you'll notice that the bear has many costumes to make it look like he's walking. Okay, so again, if we bring in this code for next costume and we keep clicking it, it will look like he's walking. But that's a really lame program if you have to sit there and keep clicking this over and over and over, right? So what we'd like to do is to make the bear do this automatically. Okay. So this brings us to our first really important piece of code. okay, if you go to control, there is a block that says repeat, okay? Whatever I put in this block will repeat 10 times. So if I drag this block, repeat, into this block, next costume, if I encompass that like that, then every time I click, it will repeat it 10 times, okay? And I can also change that to 100 times. If I click, the bear will do that 100 times, okay? Or whatever number I put here, okay? So that's our first really important piece of code, is to be able to repeat a process many, many times, okay? All right, but you'll notice that the bear is moving really, really fast, right? He's switching between those costumes really fast. We'd like it to be a little bit slower in the animation, okay? So right above that is another really useful one called wait. Okay, and I'm going to drag that right there. And we'll actually do this one first. So let's read this together. I'm going to repeat the following action 20 times. I'm going to wait 1 second and then change my costume. Then I will repeat that again and again. So watch what happens when I click. So 1 second, change costume. 1 second, change costume. 1 second, change costume. Okay. So this is great, but 1 second is probably a little slow. Okay, and if your code is ever running too long and you can't get to stop, you can always just press this stop button up here. Okay, just so you know, if you ever need to stop what the code's working on. So let's change that to like 0.4. Okay. Okay, 4/10 of a second. So let's try that. Okay, a little bit better. Maybe still a little slow. Let's just try 1/10 of a second, 0.1. There we go. That's looking pretty good. We got our bear that's walking 20 times, okay? And it's doing that. All right. Couple other things to get started. If we want, we can click on this piece of code, okay, and it will run this, but we don't always want to have to find our code every time we're trying to do a specific action, especially if you have lots of different characters. We'd like for a way to signal for everyone to start, okay? So we're going to go up to events, and this is another piece of code that's going to be really helpful here, okay? When we click this green flag, I want to do this piece of code, okay? So notice if I press the green flag, now it will run this code for me, okay? I can also put that with the cat, so let's redo the cat. By the way, if you want to get rid of code, you just drag it off the screen. Okay, so let's do the same code for the cat. So I want to repeat 20 times to change my costume, but I want to wait 0.1 seconds between each costume change, and I want to start that when the flag is clicked. Okay, so now if I click that, we got our cat hopping and our bear walking. Okay, and there we go. That's the most basic part of working in Scratch, is going to each character, putting in their respected codes. For animation, next costume is going to be really helpful. Okay, and you just design your code for each one. Usually you use when the green flag is clicked to start your animation or your game. Okay, and you have the basics down. Okay, one other thing I want to talk about right now really quickly is white is kind of a lame background, right? Not every game has a white background. So to change the background, you can either click on this button on the right, the actual stage, okay, and then you would go to backdrops, okay, and you can edit your own. You can draw it, right? Draw with the paintbrush or something like that. Or if you go down here and click on choose Oh, it is slightly off screen, but there's a button right here that says choose backdrop. Okay. And then you can pick from any of these backdrops. Okay, so if we want them walking across a baseball diamond, okay, then now our code runs and they're in front of a baseball diamond, okay, or whatever it may be. All right, that's it for this lesson. Obviously, we want our objects to move across the screen. I mean, moonwalking is cool, but we'd rather that they be able to do other stuff as well. Okay, we'll look at how you change backdrops. We'll look more at movement of characters and building code properly and other things like that. But for right now, that's the basics of getting started. Also, once you're done, make sure, I've never seen a nice save button. You can click on the file and save now. Okay, always make sure you do that after you're done working on something. But you can also just press Control S on your keyboard or Command S on Mac. Okay, and that will also save your project. Okay, so save your project often. You can also title it up here, My First Animation. Okay, and save that. So just make sure to always save your work as you're moving along in Scratch, however you would like to. Okay, all right, we'll get started with that, and I'll see you guys in the next video.